The Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale Test, or WAIS test, is a type of IQ test you can take online to see roughly how smart you are. Though in my humble opinion, no test can truly gauge the scale of someone's intelligence. But you all know what an IQ test is, you're not dummies. But I wanted to know if I was a dummy, so the original premise of this video was going to be me taking an IQ test and seeing what my results were. But then I remembered, oh yeah, I have to pay for these results. And that's not an issue, of course, because, you know, the experts who take their time to analyze your results and give you a proper and accurate score deserve compensation for their time. But I wanted to talk about a particular question and a particular element of the actual web design of this test that really threw me off. And when I say throw me off, I don't mean it confused me in the sense of it was a difficult question. I understood the question and understood the prompt, but the actual web design kind of misled me in terms of how the question is structured. And what do I mean by the web design threw me off in terms of how the question was structured? Well, allow me to show you. But this is the question in question. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, what about this web design threw you off? Well, I want to see if you can figure it out first. I'll give you 5 seconds. Didn't figure it out? Okay, don't worry about it. That's what I'm here for. So, obviously, looking at this question, first thing you'll think of, oh, it's one of those this is to that, that is to this questions. No big deal. But there's a problem. You see, there's a tiny little flaw. Then now, obviously, I noticed the flaw now that I've already done the test, but when I was doing the test, I did not catch this at all. So we have circle with a circle in it is to small white square as this circle thing is to whatever, and then you put in your answer. And for a good, like, I don't know, I think like 4 or 5 minutes, I was thinking to myself, well, how could this be to white square if this is to this? And I couldn't find anything that had like a singular shape because there was nothing here. It's like, okay, so this is to a small white square as this would be to, I would assume, a small black circle or something like that. But there is no small singular shape. There's just multiple shapes. And then I had the GigaBrain move to pick up this PNG and move it. Now, you can't see it on the recording, so what I'm gonna do for you here is pull this up and throw it in another tab. And if we take a look, we can see that this is in fact not a small white square, but a black square with a small white square in the middle. But due to the web design and this black border around the PNG, it looks like it's just a small white square. Now, I'm sure plenty of you out there can put 2 and 2 together and be like, oh, if this is a black circle with a white thing in the middle, then this is a black square with a white thing in the middle. I get that. And of course, now actually having seen what the actual shape is, that how it's not just a white square, it's a black square with a white square. Of course, now knowing, I see it as well. But the fact that this black border around the PNG containing the question can very easily throw you off, especially since it's a square and the border's a square, and you could think, oh, small white square. At first glance, for someone who's never seen this question, you might think, oh, that's a small white square, not a black square with a white square in the middle. And I'm not hating on this test or anything, or I'm not saying it's, I'm not one of those, oh, IQ tests can't prove anything. Well, I do think that, but I think there is a lot of merit to be found in IQ tests as well. But I think that this particular element of the web design can unintentionally, unless it's completely intentional, in which case that's like a four-dimensional chess play move, but I don't think it is intentional. I think the purpose of this black border is to create a defined space to put these PNGs that are the questions. But I don't think this border was ever intended to make you think that this particular shape was just a single white square rather than, as it is here, a black square with a white square in the middle. Now, obviously, I might just be a dumb and maybe the only person in the world who got thrown off by this, but for anybody else who might be in the same category of intelligence, well, at least when it comes to the intelligence that this is scaling, it's very possible that they might not figure that out and might think that this is just a small white square, which could unintentionally, sure, it's 1 question out of 60, but it could still slightly sort of skew the results a little bit. And the whole purpose of me pointing this out is because obviously these tests are to gauge general intelligence, I guess. But if there's even one small outlier, that can throw off the results, and the whole purpose of these tests is to be as accurate as possible. So obviously I'm just one person who got unintentionally fooled by something that I think is unintentional, but considering how many people take IQ tests, I mean, I don't know how many people take this particular IQ test, but I think it is worth pointing out so that the creators of this test I mean, hopefully they're seeing this and see that this could very unintentionally throw people off in a way you didn't intend, because obviously IQ tests are meant to gauge your general intellectual abilities, and of course throwing you off is going to be part of it to test your both intuition and intellect. So of course throwing you off in some areas makes sense, but I think in this particular scenario, the way it could throw you off is completely unintentional. And if the test can't even be interpreted accurately by, you know, like for the most part, interpreted accurately by every different type of mind, then that's an issue. But yes, I think generally speaking with this one just small little thing, you know, again, just one question out of 60, but I thought it was worth pointing out. I think this particular fault here of this shape looking looking like a small white square instead of what it's actually intended to be like, I think the fault when it comes to the misinterpretation of that is on the test taker or well, definitely the web designer. Personally, if I'm not a web designer or anything, I don't know much about web design, but I would make this border that's meant to just house the question and house the PNGs that are the questions gray. That way it's a happy medium between white and black. That way it's more easily distinguishable when little things such as this slip by. But yeah, I wanted to take the start of this video to point this out. I'm still gonna show you a bunch of highlights from me taking the test because there's some pretty good ones in there. Obviously I don't have the results because I'm not paying for that. I'm sorry, I'm not paying for that. But I'm still gonna show you some highlights, and I figured I would point this out as well because it really threw me off, and I got kind of heated when I realized that, but no. This is the purpose of this test. The purpose of this test is education and learning. So I didn't want to just post my heated, angry, and frustrated results. I want to take a minute to actually point out how it could be a flaw. Obviously, I think a decent, I'd say like a good 50-50, like, you know, I feel like it's roughly a 50-50 for who would notice this or who would be thrown off by this and those who wouldn't. But no, that's all I wanted to point out. For the people who run this test, definitely see about getting that gray border installed, and I'll be taking some sort of prize for pointing it out. Kidding, obviously. But now that the one section of the video you should pay attention to is over, sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the highlights of me taking an IQ test. Jack is taller than Peter. Oh, great. Here we go with the math and the stupid math without numbers. Math without numbers is one of the stupidest concepts ever conceived for education. And when I go to hell, because let's be honest, that's probably where I'm going. When I go to hell, I'm going to find the guy who decided to put letters into math, and I'm going to beat the ever-loving crap out of him. Which of the 5 makes the best comparison? Jump in the cack. Oh, that is a dangerous way to arrange those letters. That could turn into a very not nice word. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna skip this question. We're not even gonna talk. Cut. Bullet is to gun. A gun with one bullet. A gun with one bullet. Cut for 20% to a sale. So for the original price, you would just increase it by 20%. Duh. Sometimes you see, that's the thing with these types of tests. They throw in these random basic questions where it's like, oh, they're trying to throw you off. It's like, oh, wait a minute, they know you're in the overthinking mode, so you cannot let them get to you. You gotta call them out on their bullshit when you see it. Hey, we're halfway there. Oh wait, no, there's 3 rows, 3 rows, 3 rows. This one has 4. Yeah, haha. See, you gotta think about it for a second. Wow, imagine thinking about anything ever. Boy! If all fleeps are sloops and all sloops are loopies, then all fleeps are definitely loopies. I'm feeling loopy just doing this test, my goodness. All right, final question, here we go, the final question. I better not mess this one up. A fish has a head 9 inches long. That's not a fish, my dude, that's an eel.